Hello and welcome to Old Romans Unscripted. Sorry, I had to think then for a minute which show this was. It's been one of those weeks, as you might well imagine and appreciate. Now, hopefully, there should be a couple of others joining us presently to discuss. I suppose there's really one hot topic this week, in part because it affects so many other issues. So I think there's a broad range of things we could reflect on. Now, first things first, though, while I've got your attention, please remember to like. So, press the thumbs up icon. If you enjoy these shows, please do show your appreciation, and it's a good level, it's a good way of feedback for us as well. So do remember to like if you like the show. If you love the show, then by all means give us a heart. And also, if you find these shows interesting and you think others would too, then please do share. We haven't yet had an episode or a show go viral, but I live in hope that one day such may happen. Also, too, if you appreciate and value this show and this apostolate, then please consider subscribing as either as a Patreon sponsor. The link is in the video details, or indeed, if you'd like just to make a random donation, that would be very much appreciated too. Of course, during this COVID pandemic, everyone's a little tight for finances, and we do appreciate that. But at the same time too, if you in order to keep this apostolate going, we do have some costs, regular costs that we need to cover. So, just while we wait to see if our guests will join us, let's just take a short commercial break. And welcome back. Yes, so if you haven't already subscribed to the Old Roman, then please consider doing so. Again, you will find the link in the video description. It's published every week, and of course, it gives the ordo for the week ahead, gives the propers for the Mass on Sunday, and also within the ordo, there are links to the Mass propers through the week. It also gives biographical and hagiographical content, read the saints that we observe in the week ahead, both in written and in video format, and various interesting articles about Old Romans and about traditional Catholicism. So if you haven't already, do consider subscribing to the Old Roman. As I say, just once a week, just visit www.oldroman.live. That's www.oldroman.live. And you can pick up a subscription form and complete it there. The Old Roman is free, gratis, libre. There's no subscription fee. It is absolutely free. And well worth subscribing to. Now, some of you, of course, will have watched last night's episode of Contra Mundum, in which I gave my own perspective concerning the major news item in this week. It is, of course, about the remarks or the supposed remarks and what they infer or what they might imply regarding Pope Francis and his view on same-sex unions. Now, as I say, in many ways, this opens up quite a broad topic in the sense that, irrespective, as it were, to some extent, of whatever Pope Francis's views may be, as usual, what's distressing is that there has been no clarification as to what he meant by his words. For anyone who's not familiar with the story, which I'm sure you must be, but for those who aren't, in a documentary, he is quoted talking about a legal protection or a legal scenario or situation, and uses a phrase that some, well, certainly the subtitle author interpreted or translated from Spanish to mean civil unions. Others, however, among them Spanish speakers, suggest that rather he was talking about some other kind of legal accommodation, not an equivalency to marriage, but just some kind of legal arrangement whereby people, same-gendered people, might be able to arrange things legally regarding property, regarding inheritance, regarding emergency contacts, yada, 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 all that kind of stuff. But as I say, it's unclear as to what his thinking was. And of course, the issue here is that, again, he seemingly dropped another bombshell and hidden for cover, because this revelation occurred on Wednesday, and there's been no clarification, no statement issued on his behalf from the Vatican press office since, except that today there was an announcement made by the Vatican press office that an embargo has been placed on all Vatican news, so that no information is coming out from the Vatican at all, because supposedly what happened on Wednesday should never have happened. Apparently, an agreement had been made with the filmmakers, either to edit out those comments or to edit out that scene or whatever. So the suggestion is that what was aired should never have been aired in the first place. Very strange, very bizarre. What on earth is going on? Well, to chew the cud and discuss it with me, we have Bishop Kelly from Chicago online. Hello, Bishop Kelly.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm all right now.
Did you have trouble getting on?
No, I had troubles of other sorts involving
okay. Ah, I see. I see. Well, give us, I mean, you know, what's, I mean, it seems strange today that, and this, because this hasn't happened before. What's normally happened is that, you know, no clarification is given, and it's the Vatican just waits for it all to die away. But this news today that an embargo has been placed on Vatican communications or external communications, suggesting that apparently the clips from this video, or of the particular clips that were used, were not supposed to have been used. What does that mean? What was quoted? Does that mean that maybe actually Pope Francis did mean what was recorded and subsequently aired, even though it wasn't supposed to have been aired? What do you make of it all?
I really don't know. It's bizarre, even by this pontificate standards. It's this is the first time hearing about the embargo. So Francis has done this before. He's dropped a bombshell and walked away. And there has been a few occasions where the press secretary gets on and makes a clarification, etc. But the silence on this was what shocked me. Now, I don't know what this embargo is. Look, even if there was an agreement that it wasn't supposed to air, he said it. And what did he expect after he said it? Whether he meant it or not, whether it's a mistranslation, you know, there's all these things going around about that. Does he really mean a civil union or civil protection? For, you know, it doesn't really matter what he meant. The fact that the Western media took it, run with it. I mean, the headlines that Pope approves civil unions, Vatican change of course on gay marriage. I mean, I read all these headlines are out there, so the damage is done.
Yeah,
and I mean, he has sown confusion across the Catholic and secular world. You know, you have lapsed Catholics, lukewarm Catholics saying, "Oh, it's okay now. You know, my brother and my sister who's one of the great, everyone, you know," and there's no defense about traditional marriage. It wasn't juxtaposed against any of the formal historical teaching of the church. I mean, what's he talking about civil marriages for anyway? It's not a sacramental issue. You know, I mean, what is a civil union? Is a contract between two people. Now, in the context of modern society, same-sex civil unions sort of implies that there is sexual activity going on in that union. What's the church saying about that? If there isn't, I think the church can reasonably uphold that it's a contract between two individuals. I was listening to a piece on BBC Radio Ulster program that discussed this during the week, And one of the commentators, and I'd forgotten about this actually, when this was first discussed in the UK about civil unions, there was talk about opening it up to all people, not just same-sex attracted, and that opposite-sex people could come into one of these unions. Even a brother and sister who had lived together for a long time could contract this union as regards visitation rights, as regards property, inheritance, etc., etc., etc. Now, if that's what he's talking about, okay. I doubt he is. And even if he is, it's not how the media perceived it. I listen to NPR here, which is the national broadcasting radio, receives funds from the government. It's the only one. And I mean, I can't remember that. I think the last time I heard an article about the Pope was his election. But there they were, wall to wall, So it's quite disconcerting. And I think, the principle in canon law about the avoidance or the occasion of public scandal as being committed by these careless remarks. And he's entitled to his opinion. I just don't have to listen to it. These are personal opinions of a man. And apparently he's held these views back when he was Archbishop of Buenos Aires as a sort of a compromise position when the government was trying to push gay marriage, that he was vehemently against gay marriage, but he said, perhaps, civil union would be a compromise position. So I think he says in the statement, as I've said all along.
Yes, he says something. Yeah,
something to that effect.
Yeah, something to that effect. Yeah.
But you have to be, your own personal opinions, and I have mine, but I wouldn't necessarily say it as bishop sometimes. And as Bishop of Rome, and the gravitas that carries, this is an absolute blunder, to say the least.
This is the thing, isn't it? This is the thing, is that, I just don't know sometimes with him whether it's naivete or just arrogance, or ignorance. It's how could he not think that these words would not be, by some, as invariably any pronouncement is, deliberately misinterpreted or misconstrued? And therefore, wouldn't you deliberately, if you wanted to give an opinion, wouldn't you deliberately try to use clear language and terms? And certainly, after it's all happened and it's all come out, as you know, if someone ever tried to misconstrue my words or try to say that, imply that I had meant something that I hadn't meant, etc., that I'd straight away, making quite clear what my thoughts and opinions and interpretation on what I meant to say was. And if I were Bishop of Rome, for goodness sake, responsible for the spiritual life of over 1 billion people around the world, then doubly so I would see it as a duty and a responsibility, especially if things had blown up, and if particularly things, if people were particularly getting things wrong, I would feel duty bound as a matter of personal integrity, to have to reissue or make a statement or clarify exactly what I meant and what what my thinking is. just as, you know, he's supposed to be the pastor of the pastors of the church, for goodness sake. How is this being pastoral, you know, spreading, sowing confusion and chaos? It just beggars belief to me. I just don't understand the man's, you know, where he's coming from.
Yeah, I don't think he's ill-informed. I think most of this is purposeful. It's, you know, what they call weaponized ambiguity. That, you know, it's a position that he can crawl back from, or if he sees popular support, it's a position he can double down on. And it's, you know, it's,
do you think
it's typical Jesuitical ambiguity. And
yeah.
it's the same thing that happened in the Vatican Council, that you put these little things in there which seem benign, or could be interpreted one way or the other, and then these little bombs start to explode. And next thing, you've got chaos. I mean, this really was quite a shocker, actually.
Yeah.
For that sort of thing. But I mean, he's done it before. You know, the playing around with you know, the female diaconate and open it up and let's discuss it again. And you know, the Amazon Synod. You know, the thing about introducing the notion about married clergy, and of course then the communion for the divorced and remarried. They all started out as little sort of things that were thrown into the mix to gauge a public reaction, and then progressed. Now, this possibly could be the same tactic.
Do you think, though? I mean, maybe you're more charitable in your appreciation of him than I. I'm just not convinced he's that sort of. I'm not sure he's able to be that manipulative.
Oh, I wouldn't discount that. I wouldn't. I mean, look at the way he manipulates this notion of humbleness. You know, the gimmicks of carrying the briefcase onto the plane himself. I mean, God knows there's probably nothing in it, a pack of cigarettes or something. You know, you know, the staying in the Casa Santa Marta instead of the papal apartments, which even costs more than it would be to stay. You know, this sort of, I think he is, and from all reports, he's a devil with a temper in private. Any sort of criticism, and your head's chopped off, you're gone. You know, you're Bishop of Siberia. It's I really do think he knows how to play. I mean, how the hell did he get elected? So excuse me. How did he get elected in the first place?
I mean,
perhaps
there is that, and when you look at you know, what we know, such as we know about his career, you know, there was all that strange business when he was superior of the Jesuits in Argentina during the military junta and everything. You know, nobody knew where he stood. Many people thought he had not defended, shall we say, his own Jesuit brothers, who were subsequently arrested and assassinated by the government. And, you know, for all that he has said about caring about the victims of child sexual abuse and so on and so forth, you know, what he says that, as it were, he speaks out of the side of his face one way, and then on the other side, he, you know, plucks accused prelates from the local situation, transfers them to the Vatican, appoints them to curial officials, to curial offices, and to positions near him, and you know, and we know from accounts in Argentina that he was atrocious to abuse victims. In fact, he spent a considerable amount when there was an Argentinian TV personality priest who was very popular. Subsequently, found out he was accused and credibly accused. There were lots of cases, and even after the guy had been convicted, Bergoglio spent thousands of archdiocesan dollars creating a dossier to basically trounce the characters of the accusers, and tried to use it to lean on the Attorney General to overturn, if not overturn the decision, then to reopen the case or whatever. And now that is known in Argentina, but very few people, that doesn't come out. That's not, amazingly, that's not sort of general knowledge, which surprises me, because it is out there. You can go on YouTube and you can find documentaries, made in Argentina by mainstream news channels, with interviews with the accused, with the victims, etc., etc. I'm always kind of taken aback by the fact that that hasn't reached an international level of awareness and investigation.
Well, the media doesn't investigate anymore. I mean, we have this curious thing here.
Well, Western media doesn't.
No,
Western media doesn't. No,
journalism, as traditionally held, is dead. It's politically motivated. It's unfortunate.
We don't care about facts. We only report feelings.
Exactly. That's it. You see. But it's very disturbing. But not that I'm an expert in this, but I have read several authors and Argentinian authors that have accused him of, that his way of governing, his way of acting is straight out of the Peronist handbook. I think is the phrase that has been used. That the Peron government, such as it was, would do similar sort of things. It was about cover up. It was about dossiers. It was about they would release certain things and gauge opinion and then impose the law. And those close to them were promoted. Those that weren't were disappeared, both figuratively and literally. So it is disturbing to see it. And again, I mean, the damage to people's belief, the confusion that has been sown, is the real concern here. What's out there in the public sphere is it's very hard now to claw back from that, because the Western media or the lapsed or uneducated, uncatechized Catholic will say, but you said it. Now you're saying this, and it's going to be very hard to put that pony back in the stable once it's bolted. I don't know what they're going to do. It's really, really, really sad as to what's happened. And there's a sort of a triumphalist mood in the Western media over this. It's like, well, what took you so long to catch up? And the other thing is, well, you're not quite there yet. What about marriage? So it's, and then they point to other Christian sects and say, well, look, in the Episcopal Church they have sacramental marriage, and in the so-and-so church they have this. Can't you all just agree on it and let love be love? Which of course is an absolute misunderstanding of marriage.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, you see, I think aside from the material, aside from the subject, again, this really is unprecedented in terms of the papal office, and the way generally that even recent popes, how these things are usually dealt with or handled. This would never have happened to Benedict, for example, and would never have happened to John Paul II either. I can't think of a scenario like, like this.
They wouldn't have said it in the first place.
Well, no, but I mean, irrespective of the subject matter, I mean, they just wouldn't have put themselves. I don't think anyone would have allowed them to put themselves either to be set up for such a situation or for such a scenario to occur. I mean, not to have I'm just thinking, for example, documentaries previously have either been done under the aegis of the Vatican, and the Vatican has complete control, or they've been done completely without the Vatican, but then, of course, without the subject directly in them. So you have a documentary that's all about the Pope, but the Pope isn't actually in it.
This is a recent phenomenon, and it shows you the wisdom, the fact that the Queen of England doesn't give interviews. There's a reason why she doesn't. And it's only recently, I'm trying to think, I can think of very few interviews that previous popes have done, even the last two. Certainly before that, there were none. But because it's not about your individual view, nobody cares what you think. I care what you teach as Pope. And it's just, once you step into that, the possibility for confusion and error and all sorts of things, it's absolute. I mean, can you think of many people? I got an email in my inbox today from a concerned Catholic, asking what we thought about the recent debacle, and he said he had already told his parents that that if this is true, then he's going to join the Orthodox Church. So that's one tiny example, but that has to be replicated across the globe. And in Western society, we're pretty accepting, or at least aware, and it's become more normative in society. But in other parts of the world where it's not, I can see. This must absolutely scandalize the Africans, just as an example. And other parts of the globe of what's going on here. Not to mention, under the radar of all of this, the Vatican has admitted it's renewed its secret contact with the Chinese Communist Party. You couldn't, Dan Brown couldn't write this stuff,
No, that's the incredible thing about it all, isn't it? This is. Just a few years ago, we would never have entertained. If anyone had said to us that this, scenario would happen, and then blah 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 blah, we'd have laughed in their faces.
Yeah.
Whereas now,
or had them locked up. No, it's it really is.
Well, we'd have called them conspiracy nuts and
Right.
and all the rest of it. I mean, you know, it's and you see, and what does get me about this is, you know, what it's doing to the reputation and to the standing of the Petrine office, and what it's doing to the faith and well-being of the faithful. I mean, you know, you mentioned you've had an email. I've had 2 or 3 today, and had others in the week. Plus, of course, there's all the commentators. Even, I mean, this is the thing, and within hours, not just the traditional Catholic commentators that, you know, everything Rome says or anything Francis says is basically gaslighting gaslighting them. You know, you expect, and for sure, you know, Taylor Marshall within hours was commenting. Michael Voris from Church Militant, Michael Mack from the Remnant, Henry Weston, from the LifeSite News, etc. But also too were people like Matt Fradd, who is, you know, a kind of mainstream moderate. You know, he's fairly sound as far as Novus Ordo Catholic can be, but but he was distraught. I mean, he went live and straight away said, I possibly shouldn't be doing this because this is off the cuff, this is unrehearsed. I've got to share. And, you know, something significant, of course, that he pointed out, which, of course, you know, didn't escape my attention and probably didn't others, was that yet again, where were the supposedly media savvy voices? You know, where was Bishop Barron's voice? And that other chap, Bishop Robert something or other, so and so forth. I mean, it's why haven't they commented?
Well, some of them have. I think Bishop Night Night Baby Tobin from New Jersey certainly came out.
Oh yeah, now fair play. I mean, that was rather strange because he came out fairly soon with a statement and asserting the traditional doctrinal position of the church. Now, whether that was to suggest basically that, you know, Francis couldn't have meant what they said, said,
just
whether
being,
he was, you know, offering
being the party man
and sort of enabling a way out.
But it's all sorts of bizarro in Rome at the minute. So it was released, the papal liturgical itinerary was released. So no midnight mass this year because of COVID.
Yeah.
There will be an Urbi et Orbi. But why no midnight mass? You know, why no Easter? Why no? You know, these things are seminal to even to fall away Catholics. You know, even to Easter and Christmas Catholics, they're important.
But he's been Francis has had an aversion to midnight mass since he took the office.
Yeah.
I mean, it was getting earlier and earlier. So I think, I mean, was it last year that it was something like 8 o'clock?
Oh, was it? Oh, dear.
Yeah, it, you know, shifted from, you know, down from 10 p.m. I think last year it was 8 o'clock.
Well, as the alcoholic says, it's midnight somewhere. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. You know, it's but he's well enabled to sit up in a basilica with one of these syncretist hug a tree for peace things this week. He didn't cancel that because of COVID. And they're all up there sitting on the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem with that.
Yeah, there's hundreds of inconsistencies with, like for example, he never kneels to the Blessed Sacrament. Never.
No. But he gets down on his hands and knees and kisses the feet of African leaders.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But again, I'm not going to get into it. I'll leave it there. I'm not going to say what's on my mind.
But I mean, and then of course the whole Pachamama thing.
And then, which again, they've just minted a coin with a Pachamama on it.
I know, as if there was no issue last year, and as if there was no issue last year, and then they go and issue this. I mean, I just can't appreciate it from any kind of perspective. Aside from the doctrinal perspective, it's just kind of, well, but surely you realised all the fuss that caused last year, and then you sanction and the striking of a anniversary coin, picturing.
Is his face on the other side of it? I don't know. I've only seen the Pachamama side, but
I'm not sure it is actually. I'm not entirely sure it is. I can't remember. I have seen the picture of both sides. But the thing that the really key thing though is what this is doing to the office itself.
Oh yeah.
This is really affecting the foundations of the church. I mean, that's it. And I think few people are reflecting on that at the moment. But that is essentially what's going on here.
No, it is. And if you look at the example of sort of mid to late 20th century media coverage, which obviously influences society, and how they treated the hierarchy of the Church of England. And this was through sitcoms and serious reporting, and they just portrayed them as a bunch of silly old fools. Bumbling sort of idiots that had their heads stuck in the sky and were not in touch with reality and not to be taken seriously. I mean, you can think of sketches from Monty Python through All Gas and Gators and the bumbling fool, Mr. Bean or Rowan Atkinson, all of these things, just portraying these people as just buffoons. And not taken seriously. Now they let themselves open for that by the stuff they started to come out with. But the same is happening now, several years later, with the Roman Church, which used to be a world leader. It was Reagan who looked to John Paul II as an ally to take down communism. The influence of the very fact that the Vatican has diplomatic relationships with so many countries is because it's a key player. I fear that this is going to be lost. I fear that it's not going to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Because you have, for example, this one here. Well, your church clearly teaches this, but then your leader gets on. It's like a George Bush gaffe. He gets on a hot mic and says something else. It's just absolutely. And I mean that's the public perception, the outside perception. It's equally as bad inside. It's eating and destroying people's faith in the institution. I mean, there's even the US here. There's a boycott of the Peters Pence collection this year.
Yeah.
Because of the scandalous spending that has happened under that. It's just. I mean, it's one thing after another. It's just. I mean, there's only so many strikes it can take before the wall crumbles. And they're doing it to themselves. Like anyone else doing this amount of self-harm would be institutionalized. You know what I mean? They would, for their own safety. But these people just go at it. You know, I said, what can I do to ourselves next? You know, it's really sad. I feel, and I honestly, joking and sort of quipping aside, I weep for the state of the church, and I weep for the damage it's doing to people. And I pray earnestly that an end will come to this before more souls are lost, because that's the most serious thing in the world, that these souls are being led astray by this nonsense, by this confusion. It really, really, really is a serious situation.
Yeah. I mean, and this isn't all down to Bergoglio. This is not all down to Francis.
No. Oh, God,
this is, what we're seeing here now is just the the inevitable from the build up since the council. That, as you pointed out earlier, with the language of ambiguity, has just enabled 50 years of confusion, but which is now really sort of it's reached the top.
See, now you've gotten rid of the generations that didn't have confusion, and it's not the people that have known nothing but confusion. So there's no sort of counterbalance to it now. So it's off the charts. I mean, at least when I was coming through, there were older men there that were sensible, that were formed correctly, that had an understanding of the truth and the faith. And those people were still parish priests. They were still rectors of seminaries or educational institutions, or grammar schools. And but that's all gone. Now you've got these. I clicked on a thing today because it was from my home diocese, and it was about some priest explaining liturgical movements of the faithful. Why we stand and sit and kneel at various points. I couldn't believe what was coming out of his mouth. And this was supposed to be an educational teaching, didactic tool put out by the diocese. I mean, this guy was, I mean, he compared it to yoga. Yoga, it's Catholic yoga, he said.
No, I saw a video, again, a young priest who was supposedly giving, an instructional presentation on vestments, and was going through the sacristy, and was, pulling out an alb and saying, we wear this. I like this one, and I don't like this one, and this is how I put it on. And he just sort of, put it on, and no laying it out, no prayers, no, and then going through the chasubles, he said, "Oh, I really like the gold one. Not so keen on the other one." And and say, I mean, that's the problem. That's the catechesis. That's the catechesis that's going out to confirmands and
I know.
First Holy Communion.
I remember when I was trained as an altar boy. I remember the I think it was a curate at the time. He brought us all up. We were picked out from school, and we come into the church. And, he was teaching us about the vestments, but he did teach us about the vestments, and how to put them on, and what they meant, and what they symbolized, their origin. I was fascinated, by the way. I do remember that when he when he put the cincture on and did the loop, and before he pulled it up, he says, "This is for hanging altar boys who misbehave." And sort of before he tightened the thing. But you learned that was a symbolism of chastity and purity and girding the loins and all.
Yeah.
But even even if they've kept the prayers themselves are didactic as to what these things mean and symbolize. But it's just the level of banality to be charitable. It's just extraordinary. It's extraordinary.
Yeah. And it's not. And so the thing is, of course, is that it's not the faith.
No.
What they're supposedly teaching or imparting is not the faith. And anyone who listens or watches those things will not come away any better informed than they were before they had to sit through it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's and I don't know how many young Catholics that I've met who behave as if they've never seen a sukketto before. They've never seen a soutane before. And you think to yourself, well, you must have seen a bishop at least once when you were confirmed. You never saw that again since. But aside from that, have you never watched the Urbi et Orbi from St. Peter's Square? Have you never watched? How do you know? But the number of times somebody said to me, "Oh, are you a rabbi?" And
I know.
And at the same time said, "Because I'm a Catholic."
Yeah, I got. In fact, I got that from a visit to Ethiopian Coptic Church. Somebody came up and asked. He said, "I'm confused. Your hat makes me think you're Jewish, but you're wearing a cross around your neck." And and then somebody else chimed in and said, "Oh yeah, but haven't you seen the Pope? He wears one of those little hats too." So it's just, I mean, I can forgive them. They're not Catholics. They're not particularly, Western. And often this is, and people always ask, is that linked with Judaism and stuff? And they're, especially when actual Jews ask the question, they're disappointed with the answer. But I don't know. It's a topsy-turvy world, from religion to politics to you name it. It's a strange times we're in.
Yeah. Oh,
and then you add in a virus.
I mean, it is a crazy world in which we're living in, but which is why it is so disastrous how the office of the papacy is being exercised.
Yeah.
Because it used to be, the joke was, is the Pope a Catholic? It was a joke because, of course, the Pope's a Catholic.
Next question, please.
Now that's the joke. Now that's the joke. Now is I would have to answer. I don't know. You tell me. What do you think? Do you think the Pope's a Catholic? What's your understanding of Catholic? What do you think his understanding of Catholic is?
It's so bizarre. It's bizarre. I don't know. It's really is crazy.
So what?
Oh, but so talking about the coronavirus thing too. The apart from Wales and Ireland are the only two countries that religion is now public services being banned. And the difference between Ireland and Wales is that a priest can be imprisoned for publicly celebrating Mass. Not since the English penal times has that been on the books. And
Wow.
children can go to school. You can have classes of 30 or more, but a priest can't say a public Mass with, I think it's down, I'm not sure what the guidelines are. It's maybe half a dozen or 10 people max can congregate in one of these vast churches. But if a priest were to appear and say Mass, could be fined, imprisoned, or both. And
wouldn't it be great?
The hierarchy are silent. Yes, they do. They need priests to do it. We need to see them being dragged off the altar in their vestments and thrown into police wagons and taken to jail.
I would love to see that. I would love to see that. I really would. That would give me faith. If
could you think the witness of that to the people?
1,500. I don't know if have they got 1,500 priests in Ireland? but if okay, 500. If 500 priests in Ireland were dragged off the altar, I mean, it would hit the news.
Well, maybe.
But it would hit the news. But I mean, that would be amazing. It won't happen though.
No, it won't. Well, not at all. Not at all, because the church doesn't want to lose its privilege, such as it is. It's a sad thing. You do have that priest in Wales that did come out and say, "Look, I did this before. I'm damned if I'm going to do it again." Did you come across that?
Well, actually, no. Technically, he's Welsh, but he's not in Wales. He's actually in East Anglia or somewhere. He's in East Anglia or somewhere, and he's actually an Anglican convert. He's in the personal ordinariate.
So he actually believes in Catholicism then? Yeah,
he's one. Well, it stayed that. I mean, it took him 20 years to leave the church. Anyway. What was I going to say? Oh, yes. But in Wales, of course, this is the thing. Is these logical inconsistencies. So in Wales, you can't have a service. You can't have a Eucharist. Blah blah blah. You can have 6 people for a funeral.
That's right. And somebody else pointed this out.
Or a wedding.
She's a GP, a general practitioner, physician for Americans, who was also a counselor for this new group called Into. They're sort of a very strong pro-life party in Ireland. But she's a local counsellor, and she recently resigned because of her views on COVID. It's not the same as the party view. But she pointed this out, that the advice that was given from the local government in Northern Ireland was that you can't have family and friends around for Christmas. That to celebrate in your own family bubble, as it were. But she also noticed that you can have 25 people over to congregate for a funeral. So this year, she's not having Christmas, but she's having a funeral for a deceased turkey who happened to die on the 25th of December.
I saw that one as well. Yeah, I thought that was quite good.
So I don't know. But people are starting to look through. They see the inconsistency. I mean, people aren't stupid. I mean, we do act like sheep from time to time, but we're not stupid. And people start to see this, and they're going to question, I mean, more so in Europe than has been here, but I can't believe the overreach of government on controlling people's lives. It's concerning,
Well, and really, it does just not seem justifiable. There was, I just caught it on YouTube, but an elderly couple that were interviewed on Good Morning Britain this week, Maureen from Barnsley, who apparently has become something of an internet sensation for expressing frank views about the current situation. And they were interviewing her. They had a GP on who, quite frankly, was patronizing and condescending. But they did actually allow sort of Maureen and her husband, Michael, 61 years married. They said to Maureen, they said, we're going to speak to Michael now, because the pair of them were standing on their doorstep. And she said, I suppose, Michael, after, being married to Maureen for 61 years, you'll be able to confirm that when she says that she won't be staying in, that she means it. but the pair of them, now he said, and bless him, he said, I'm whatever age, I think it was 83, something like that. He said, I've been through 6 of these pandemics. He said, and this is nothing compared to the others. And he said, but what did he say? Yeah. He said, this is nothing compared to the others. And then Maureen, bless her, pointed out all the discrepancies in the reporting figures. I mean, it's still, percentage-wise, even globally, percentage-wise, extremely small number of people who have been infected. And there are still, of course, more people who have been infected than have actually died. But as Maureen said, it doesn't help when they inflate the figures by, as we know, they've been recording everyone who's died during the pandemic as dying from COVID, even though actually they didn't die from COVID. Mm-hmm. But more people are still dying from cancer, from strokes and heart attacks and obesity and blah, 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 every week than are dying from COVID.
Even more so because these people aren't going to hospitals and they aren't going to their local physician, and these new cancers and diseases aren't being detected because people are afraid to go, or they've cancelled surgeries, or they don't want to go near a hospital that has COVID patients. So the fear in the lockdown is also having an effect on people's health outside of it. I mean, they published something in the UK about GP visits, and I mean, comparing last year to this year, and it's frightening, about the people that they that haven't gone to their GP that would normally go. So I mean, what happened? Are these people getting sicker? Is that pain or that lump that you find? We'll worry about that later. When this is over. It's I don't know. I really.
Well, and see, and again, this in this clip of the program, and they were saying, oh well, because we need to protect the NHS, we need to save the NHS, blah blah blah. Well, hold on a minute. The NHS is not awash. It is not. It's not a case of it cannot cope. It's quite the opposite. Earlier, of course, when we had the lockdown, they were frantically building these Nightingale hospitals, which were barely used, barely touched.
Yeah, same here.
3 months ago, Public Health were telling people, you must go, try and see a GP, go to the hospital if you find a lump, if you think, because they suddenly, they recognized the fact that they, for 2 months, for 3 months, had a backup, basically a backlog of cases which ordinarily would have been dealt with in the ordinary course of things, but of course had all been put on hold because all resources and all personnel and all staff had been directed toward COVID, and then there was no emergency. There was no big issue, no big problem. It's just crazy. It just defies logic again. That's the thing.
But we as a society have given up on logic. I mean, we have in recent years. It doesn't play a part. I mean, whether it's in the Vatican, whether it's in the government, whether it's in the normal discourse of life. I mean, my feelings don't care about your facts. It really is. I mean, and that's a serious problem in the general philosophy and outlook of modern society. And it's a free for all.
Well,
I texted somebody recently this week. It was I think I was reading, might have been the UK actually. The government was talking about gender quotas in at various governing boards or institutions that they have these gender quotas. And it just occurred to me, and I texted a friend of mine. I said, look, if gender is fluid, how on earth could you ever have a gender quota? I mean, that's their logic. They say gender is fluid.
I know.
So how can you have gender quotas? If using their logic, but it seems that you can.
Yeah. Well, and on the one hand, it's all about science, and then but if I subjectively, without any scientific backup at all, any evidence whatsoever, but if I subjectively feel that I'm in the wrong body, then that's that has to be.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's on the one hand, it's we're so rational, we're so we don't believe in your imaginary friend, but it's like but you haven't got a complete grip on yourself, have you?
Right. Yeah, exactly. People often say, Christians or religious people, just because you believe in a big sky daddy, it doesn't. But you believe in ridiculous things too by your own logic. That a man can be a woman and then switch back again, and it could be one of these 60 odd things in between. You asked me to accept that as science. I mean, look at it. I mean, I have no doubt people feel these things, and it is something that is part and parcel of. And I have the utmost sympathy, and I also support for people that tend to go through these things. But I don't think we're helping by this.
We're not helping them. We're not helping.
I mean, use the equivalents to something like anorexia. Do you support the anorexic in starving themselves to death? Or do you intervene and help and be constructive and use science? I don't know. I think we've approached this the wrong way. Ultimately, not something that will bring help or satisfaction or treatment or acceptance. But I think by indulging it, it's causing more harm than good.
There was something earlier this week, and then this really got me. So there are now people who, previously we would have called it body dysmorphia. Okay, so they don't believe their hand is their hand, kind of thing. But now there's a new group who basically it's kind of like body dysmorphia, and they want to be disabled.
Oh,
so they now identify as. Did you get this week?
I came across something.
So people are identifying themselves as being disabled, even though they're not, and then are self-mutilating themselves. What? And what's more is that they are expecting to receive the same kind of regard and treatment as people who are experiencing transgender. So in other words, they're saying, no, you can't be you can't be cross with me or upset with me because I've disabled myself because I believe I am disabled.
Yeah, and this is also happening with people who are attracted to minors. That
oh yes,
and this is the
the
next
TED Talks for the last 2 years have been building up to that, saying well, if paedophilia is on the spectrum of sexuality, then it's only natural, therefore yada
everybody
yada,
consents, etc.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's sick.
It really is, and it's
Sick.
again.
I mean, I've got every sympathy for anyone who is in any way, shape, or form suffering. Absolute, I have absolute sympathy for them, but it is not this current approach or way of handling or treating them by, as it were, acquiescing to their psychosis, because that's essentially what it is. Acquiescing to their psychosis is not treating them. It's not helping them. It's not curing them. Somebody, the suicide rate amongst post-trans op, for example, is something like 40% or higher. But that's because the fundamental problem is it doesn't matter which or what body they were in, they would not be happy. That's actually what the issue is. Aside from the fact that the whole idea that you can feel alien inside your own skin when that's the only skin you've ever known, it's clearly not right, is it? It's we're not helping these people by acquiescing to their psychosis. I can understand, for example, like with mental health, and with the kind of patients that in times past might have been put into asylums, etc., but who were essentially non-harmful, non-threatening to anyone else and not a threat to themselves. You would a little acquiescence to their psychosis in order to keep them happy and comfortable and whatever was that's fine. But what's happening today, and now it's getting really serious, when children are taking medicines, are taking chemicals, are being chemically castrated, as well as physical operations, etc. For for what? For something that likely is a fad or a phase, because, like it or not, again, the statistics show that the vast majority of children who experience gender questioning, the vast majority eventually reconcile with their own biological sex. But by acquiescing now at these early ages to such psychosis is dangerous, because then if they do go down the route of chemical castration and so forth, they're screwed for the rest of their lives. They're never going to be happy. And you don't hear about those people who are trying to sue for having for basically having their psychosis acquiesced to before, and having been encouraged to go through procedures they should never have gone through, etc., etc. You don't hear about that.
There are a few cases I have heard about, but yes, it's rare.
Yeah.
I think part and parcel
because
of it,
you're not allowed to talk about it either.
No, you're not. And I think part and parcel of it, there's an element to it that that society as a general, it makes us, well, I won't say us because it doesn't include me, but it makes society feel better if we're doing this to help them, to allow this, to support this. The woke society feels better, feels engaged by the support of this, and that they perceive that the individual feels better, and they feel better by allowing it and supporting it. You can see facets of that with these. I mean, I just watched a thing today where this young couple, drove up in this Mercedes SUV, and there was a BLM protest happening, and she gets out and she poses, and her boyfriend takes a picture of a selfie, and she's doing this for BLM. They get back in the Mercedes and drive away. Now, what's she going to do? She's going to post that on Facebook, Google some sort of platitude, and masquerade as somebody who actually cares, and she feels great. So that's an element in it too, and I just don't know.
Narcissistic virtue signaling is that's a real thing.
Yeah,
that's a real thing.
Yeah,
that's about the only real thing that is. That's about the only element of it all that is real.
Real. Yeah.
Is this virtue signaling narcissism?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all so maddening. So maddening.
Yeah, to us all folks,
it's getting worse.
Logic. Oh, it's getting worse. Yeah, there's no stopping it.
Well, to us who've kept reason, this is the thing, and this is what gets me again is that as you all know, I suspect most of you who watch are familiar with my teaching. So one of the things I'm always talking about is that our faith is about using our heads, is about using our ability to rationalize, is about using reason. And so often I will talk about logic and logical consequences and so on and so forth. And yet we're the ones, apparently, according to the dysmorphia lot, who aren't real, who are away with the fairies.
I know. Nothing makes sense, and that is. I agree with you. That is frustrating. If you have any sort of notion of reason or logic, I mean, that is just it's frustrating. It's
and then now it's all the subjective revisionism of history and everything else that's going on now as well. So the truth of the matter is this current generation will not be able to learn from the lessons of history because they will have so altered their understanding and perspective of what is history.
Right.
It is crazy.
No, it's utter confusion.
And of course,
anyway,
and the thing is, of course, who is the author of chaos and confusion?
Of course.
Who was the first to persuade people he didn't exist?
Right. Yeah, but in saying that, that's what's on the plate in front of us, and it's how we engage with it. And I believe ultimately, when you shine the light of truth onto this, it will prevail. But boy, is it a difficult task because the psyche of people has been so changed.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's the mental acuity is just not there.
Yeah,
it just doesn't seem to be there.
No, and that has been purposely taught. That has been,
this is the thing.
20, 30 years that has invaded the university system, the school system, and people who don't go to university. It's being disseminated by the entertainment industry, the media. It's all very clever. You can't watch a movie now that isn't peppered with hot button issues. It's impossible, absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
I suspect if Hollywood made a life of Christ, you'd find a transgendered St. John in there somehow. It has to include, he goes into Galilee. He goes into Galilee and speaks to a BLM protest. You just can't escape it, and it's all agenda driven. And it's so through whatever you engage with, be it entertainment, media, education, it's all being pushed, and it has been for quite some time. So I don't blame people.
For a long time.
For a long time.
For a long time. This was kind of developed, if I remember rightly, sometime between the two world wars. Then was used. Actually, I think if memory serves, it was the whole notion of this kind of propaganda or propagandizing through subtlety and subliminal messaging and so forth was actually developed by America, not by the Nazis. But then the Nazis picked up on it and used it. But it's been used in marketing ever since. And now it's we're essentially our kids are being indoctrinated. And then again, you see, this is what gets me. They throw a wobbly at the notion of us having anything to do with schools or whatever, because they think we'll indoctrinate, and yet that's exactly what they do with their cultural Marxism and soft cell socialism and so on and so forth. With all these ideologies. And it's all disguised with emotions. They always use emotions. It's all about subjectivity. And so everything is relativist. It's frustrating because it's so worrying. It really is. And then you get Francis.
Where's the leadership? Where's the shepherd?
Where is the shepherd? And that's
unfortunately, that is the case. Another news out of Ireland this week was the government now has decided to remove all Catholic and Christian symbols from schools, and to do away with communal masses, as in graduation or yearly masses. That these are state-run schools, but through the history of the state, they were run by the church because they were the nuns were the teachers, or the teachers, or the brothers, and now they've just decided to remove all of that, even though they were established by, and still in certain cases staffed by religious. That the government said no, enough is enough. This is enough. We can't have other people who are not of this faith exposed to these symbols. Yes, Catholics, which are still the vast majority, have to be exposed to their nihilism. But that's okay. It's okay to be expectant. When the majority has to acquiesce to it's crazy. It really is. It's crazy. The fact that a priest can now be arrested and imprisoned for saying mass, that the schools have been stripped of their Christian symbols. Who would have thought this? The Catholic Ireland was the butt of jokes for being so bloody Catholic. For many, Ireland was a priest factory for the world. the only place I can see in modern Europe that's still flying a flag for Catholicism is perhaps Poland, or maybe the Catholic Church in Hungary. But apart from that, it's a sorry sight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, this is all very depressing. Give us something
Yeah.
good. There has to be something.
Well, so I was going to say, so what can we say to give hope? I mean, the key thing is, of course, is that irrespective of all of this rubbish going on, the faith and God does not change, does not alter.
Right.
And those who put their trust and their hope in the Orthodox Catholic faith and in Jesus Christ, in God, will not be confounded. And really, I would say the key really is tradition. Hold on to that which has always been everywhere believed. Hold by that and you will not go wrong. And just turn off as best you can these conflicting voices.
And do not let, even though you're surrounded by confusion, do not let yourself be confused. Just see it, as I said before, shine the light of truth on it, and you'll see it for what it is. If you have faith, if you're properly catechized, you'll be able to see the lies and the deceit and the folly. And you can do that. I mean, if you have the tools, it's quite easy to do it. And just stay for the course. I mean, this is the worst advice you give out anybody, is that when you take up a good book, don't read the last chapter first. But in the Christian story, we have read the last chapter. We know how it ends, and take solace and comfort in that, because there's no other ending, and it cannot and will not be rewritten. And we triumph.
Exactly, it can't be changed.
It can't be changed. So we know the ending of this bloody good novel that we're in, this story, The Divine Economy, and we know how it ends, and there's no other ending or the possibility of any other ending. So if we stick with it, we'll get to that. We'll be part and parcel of that triumph, of that glory.
And that again is the key: is remaining steadfast, is enduring. Embracing suffering, because but that is the nature of the Christian life. Embrace your cross, endure, but remain steadfast and loyal. And you'll see it through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's it's like taking a flight. My logic tells me I'm going to take off and land, and that'll be the end of it. The first patch of turbulence I hit, I'm a worrywart. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. I'm nervous. It causes me to pray. But when it subsides, I'm fine, and I have full confidence again. And I do land, and I get off, and I've reached my destination. I mean, it's sort of a cheesy analogy, but it's like that. When we're in the midst of this turbulence, it creates feelings and that are that come to the surface, but shouldn't be ruled by those feelings. We should remember our logic, that we know that we're going to get there. We know that this turbulence it's just air, and that this craft is built to withstand it. And things will calm down, and we will reach our destination. And don't be overwhelmed by those feelings. No. Easier said than done. Often.
Well, yeah.
But if you have a practice, go on. Sorry.
Well, no, I'm just going to say, those who watch Late Night Catechism, of course, know that we've been talking. We're always, and one of the things I'm always saying is actually the key is to overcome your emotions. That is the key. It's about overcoming your emotions, not allowing yourself to be subjected to your emotions, but to control them, to take control, have control. And to do that, you need to use the higher intellect. You need to use the capacity that we have all been blessed with, to reason and to rationalize. It really is, and can be as simple as that. Of course, we're all individuals, and things affect us differently, and so on and so forth. There's spectrums for everything. But essentially, it's about not giving in to primordial instincts. It's not giving in to base passions. It's not giving. It's about taking control, having control, being disciplined, and we can do that who trust in God. And the idea of these programs, the whole point of Old Roman TV in our programming at the moment is to try and fulfill the church's role of informing consciences, so that you can be enabled to find ways to deal. That's really the purpose of late night catechism, etc. is to, and the other programs is to encourage and to enable. To encourage, I hope, for all the very serious subjects that Bishop Kelly and I have discussed this evening. We've done it calmly. We've done it with humour. We've we've expressed frustration, but we're not stressed. It's so we hope that encourages. And likewise, with the conferences on more serious topics and delivery style, that is to enable, to impart information to you so that you can be equipped and have the tools to be able to respond appropriately, which more than half the time, is about not losing your head.
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
Well, I think we'll wind things up there. Would you kindly give us your blessing?
The Lord be with you.
And with thy spirit.
May the blessing of Almighty God, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, come upon you and remain with you forever. Amen.
Amen. Well, God bless you all. Thank you for watching. We hope that was worthwhile. We hope that was interesting or entertaining, or provocative even. Let us know, likes, shares, and let us know feel free to comment, or to write to Old Roman TV and let us know. Don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't already, you can subscribe to YouTube, never miss a show. You can subscribe to the Old Roman and get your weekly newsletter with articles on tradition, enabling material, which not only enables you in terms of reason, but also enables you spiritually by providing details about the online content that we broadcast every day. Don't forget, we broadcast the traditional Mass every day. We broadcast the Angelus every day and the Rosary. And more of you, I think, ought to be joining us for the Rosary, and sharing your prayers and intentions with others. There's no need for us as Old Romans to feel alone, even though we may be many hundreds of miles apart. So do avail of yourselves of that opportunity. Every day, 6 p.m, whatever the British time is, which of course changes tomorrow. I get an extra hour in bed tomorrow before Mass. That's amazing. Although I'll probably
doesn't happen to us for another week.
Yeah. So
So
we
there's going to be that weird time in between.
an hour. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. So we'll be 7 hours
United States will change
different.
next week, November 1st.
Right.
So
Oh
it'll be,
gosh.
I know.
I
It's
can't.
horrible.
I'm not going to get my head around that right now.
but as of next week, we'll be back.
But anyway,
back to normal.
but if you subscribe through Facebook, through YouTube, through Twitter, through Periscope, through Twitch, if I missed anything out, if you subscribe, then you will get the promptings. They will send you notifications of what's on and when it's on. So you need never worry about what time of day it is. You'll know when it's happening, and you'll know whether you're free or not. Anyway, bless you all. Thank you, Bishop Kelly, as always, for joining us and for sharing your insight and wisdom and humour. And
one out of three, possibly.
Every one of us. Oh, shucks! You're so humble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should see me climb up the steps.
Like the Holy Father himself. Take care, all, and God bless.